to do is to keep going, take heart, di ba? Kaya at the end of the day, how we cope does matter. So dapat may ara kita ang atong support system, dapat hindi kita magpadala sa atong emotions because I know nga medyo tough, it's a little bit challenging, but you know, I want you to know nga all is well. I know nga everything around us is not that really good, but in our hearts, in our minds, we have to consider and to program our minds that we can do this and all these things shall pass man. Okay, this is not permanent man sa ato. So that's why kanami nga despite this pandemic, we open ourselves to learn new things, no? To learn new things kag para gid sa let na for example, kay tiban-an naton nga this is important as well. All right. Makita nyo ang gina-share ko? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Kita, sir.
So, assessment of learning. I want to start with the traditional and the modern way of education. Okay? Sa una, we learning as, you know, pouring in. Okay? Or teachers are viewed as dispenser of knowledge or the source of knowledge. Like for example, if you have a jug or something, a water jug, and then ginabubuan ka sa tubig, and then you are an empty vessel, and then ginabubuan ka sa teacher sang mga knowledge. So that's the traditional way of viewing learning, of viewing education, wherein students are very passive. Students do not interact with teachers, like they don't have a say on the topics that the teachers will teach them. Wala sila kabalo kung anong matabo, basta nang nila si titong bida sa klase. So that is pouring in or source of knowledge. Okay? However, as time goes by, our educators, our philosophers, they mention that it's really productive. That's not really the goal of education. We are not the dispenser of knowledge. Though we can do that, but we are not the source of knowledge alone. Okay? So they realize that students are actually the very important person in teaching learning process. Kumbaga sila ang ma-learn. So dapat sa ila gahalin man ang mga learning experiences kay lantaw naton sang una, di ba, si John Locke, he views a man as tabula rasa or empty vessel, right? Si John Locke yung balya nga ata di subong wala gid kita may nabalaan, tabula rasa or empty slate, no, or empty vessel, wala. So ginabuan kita, pero may construct this point of view. They view students or they view learners as source of knowledge. Kumbaga si learner nga may mga experiences na siya di. Okay? May ara na siya sa iya kabuhi. Siguro may ara na siya may na experience or may na learn. So ang goal ng teacher dapat is to draw out. Okay? To draw out or facilitate. Okay? Facilitator of knowledge. That's why, tandaan, take note. I want you to get your notebook as well because I might say some important words that came out in licensure examination for teachers. Okay nga, wala diri sa presentation. Okay? So, importante nga may notebook ka because that's really important nga ikaw, kumbaga ang pag-take note mo daan, that's gina-program mo ang brain mo, nga ginakuha mo ang mga knowledge or ang mga information na importante para sa inyo. So, in the licensure examination, merong word na facilitator. Teachers nowadays are the sage, not the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side. Again, I'll repeat it. Sage on the stage, guide on the side. Okay. When we say sage on the stage, this is very traditional. Okay? Traditional. Sage on the stage, kumbaga ikaw dyan. Ikaw dyan ang leader, ikaw dyan ang center of attraction. Okay? That's sage on the stage. However, as time goes by, hindi na pwede nga si teacher lang dapat ang source of knowledge, siya lang ang bida. That's why from sage on the stage, it became guide on the side. Okay? Guide on the side means you are just a facilitator of learning. I'll repeat it again. Sage on the stage, very traditional, si teacher lahat ang bida. Guide on the side is facilitator of learning. Okay, gagwa na siya ha, gagwa. So when you say sage on the stage, the teacher is the sole dispenser of knowledge. Soul, siya lang gid ang ginahalinan. But a guide on the side, you just facilitate, you draw out knowledge from the students. Kumbaga, ikaw ba lang, like, nanamian ko. May ara ka mo teachers, makarelate ka mo na siguro nga, nanamian ko sa mga teachers, labi-labi sa mga prof ta sa college, wherein na sila mag-throw sa mga questions. They don't answer your questions, pero ginabalik nila sa estudyante. Gina-question nila, anong nabalaan mo about this? Tell us about your thoughts about this. When that is the perspective of the teacher, okay? Kung amo ng perspective ng teacher, ginatagaan mong estudyante nga mag-share sang ilang knowledge. Okay? Sige, ma-stop ako, Anay. Okay lang, maintindihan nyo ko? I need to hear your medyo ano na siya, full screen ko di sa akong presentation. May,
Sir.
or I need dasig? Dasig?
Yes, sir.
Okay lang, sir.
Hindi naman,
Medyo
sir.
dasig?
Sakto lang.
Okay, sige. So far, so good. Oo, sige. So pouring in source of knowledge to draw out or facilitate knowledge or learning. So again may transition kita. Pouring in source of knowledge, traditional, okay? I don't know if you already discussed curriculum development, but there are two views in education, the traditional and the progressivist. The traditionalist and the progressivist. So ang traditionalist, amo ni si pouring in source of knowledge. So ano na di ang mga philosophies? Essentialist. Yes? Yes? Go ahead. May question? Wala? Okay, just i-catch nyo lang yung ano nyo lang just PM me or hamba lang sa mic kung gusto mo mag-answer or kung gusto mo mag-question. So pouring in source of knowledge, they are perennialist. Ang mga perennial na bala, perennialist, essentialist, na mga ano ni sila, mga traditional, wherein si teacher palagi yung bida. On the other hand, to draw out or to facilitate or facilitator of knowledge, sila ang mga progressivist, instructionist, mga constructivist, pragmatist, mga pro-students. Okay? Pro-students din sila yan. Okay? Ato yung isa pro-teacher. Si teacher lahat. Okay? I'll proceed. Yan. Okay. So, I want you, because this is very important, ang aton nga source na dire is assessment of learning ni Navarro. Makita nyo ko, amo ni ang aton nga source, makita nyo ko, na ara sa camera, i-pin nyo ang ako nga tsura, amo ni aton nga source. Ang kay Navarro, this is the updated version. Okay? And then we also have this one. So basically, ang mga libro, ang source naton hindi lang na sa internet, ni mas gid na naggalin, halin ini sa libro sang ato na examiner. Okay? Examiner. So again, amo na gani nga galain-lain ng mga sources, pero ang one of the secrets para makita mo gid kung paano labi na gid ang prof ed nga daan. Sometimes it is subject to different interpretation. However, if you have the same mindset with the writer of the question, then masabat mo nga insakto ang imong answer. Okay? Pero kung dulain man imo perspective, hindi mo gid masabat siya kay pwede man ni siya ang isa nga question, yang option. Ang isa pwede man nga option, ang isa hindi pwede. Do mga amo na bala. So ang ginahimo ko sang prepare ko sang let, nagbakal gid ko mga libro. Nagbakal ko mga libro nga iya gid sa mga examiner, ang iya mga Lorimar books bala. So para ang akon nga thought mas maano sa ila, mas okay bala do isa kami nga ginapatihan ang belief namon sa education. Okay? So, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but I know nga sa curriculum development ko sa college, yung na-discuss nyo ang outcome-based education, matching intentions with accomplishment. Di ba? Sang una, That's why sa ato nga, ay, ganda mapatay ko sa mga lesson planning sa college. Di ba? Nanamian ka mo mag-lesson planning nga detailed? Bao, Diyos ko. If I would recall our experiences in college, daw medyo, do pamatay ang lesson planning, kiti, do hangag ka nga gambal. Okay, class, good morning! Good morning, everyone. How's your day? Then sa another column, ikaw man masabat. We're okay, ma'am. We're not good, sir. Mga muamo na bala. So, though para sa ako, it's a waste of time nga daw. So, subong, I think may mga DLL na, no? May mga DLL na, no? Kag mga prepared na nga mga lesson plans coming from our curriculum guide sa DepEd. Pero daw ka waste of time tong daw mga amo na. Pero that's very important ang lesson planning kapin pagid kung bag-o pa lang ta. Bag-o pa lang kita sa teaching profession. So, of course, we have to be familiarized with the lesson, kung paano ang mga proceedings dira. So, amo ni, the change in educational called outcome-based education has three characteristics. Okay? OBE, outcome. Magamba kita outcome-based, ang dapat ara siya, dapat naka-ED na siya. At the end of this lesson, the students must have, for example, must have solved. Wala ta gagamit sang present. Ano na siya? Past tense na sa solved. May ED. Kay we know nga, kumbaga, we have to begin with the end in mind. Kumbaga, pag-start pa lang sang lesson planning, dapat i-imagine ta na amuni ang ikwan sang estudyante na kung ang i-learn niya. So we have to begin with the end in mind. Dapat makuha yan sa end sang lesson, dapat ma-attain. Di ba? Ma-attain tani. That's why, ang OBE naton may tatlo ka characteristics. Number one, it is student-centered. It places the students at the center of the process by focusing on student learning outcomes or SLO, student learning outcomes. Amo na mga objectives naton. Number two, it is faculty-driven. Faculty-driven. It encourages faculty responsibility for teaching, assessing program outcomes, and motivating participation from the students. So, kumbaga si teacher involved with siya kag si students. Okay? And number three, it should be meaningful. Okay? Meaningful siya because it provides data to guide the teacher in making valid and continuing improvement in instruction and assessment activity. So, amo na ni ang shift natin sa OBE bala. May dapat student-centered siya, faculty-driven, and meaningful. So just bear with me because some of the concepts here, map-apply nyo gini sa pagsabat sa mga question maski sa ano nga prof-ed nga subjects. It could be the child and adolescent, principles of teaching, curriculum development, etc. So, galibot man na siya, ba mo na gid ang prof-ed subjects interconnected. Okay? Interconnected na sila. May labot gid ni ang isa kag ang isa nga ni. So, kag ang principle behind that is also important kay ginagamit Manila. Again, interdependent na sila. Next. So, to implement outcome-based education on the subject or course level, amo ni ang mga procedure nga gina-recommend. Number one, identification of the educational objectives of the subject or course. Hindi pwede nga nag-eskwela ka tuod ang learners wala kabalo kung ano ilang expected from them. Okay? So that's why dapat i-identify ang educational objectives. So ang educational objectives gani, they are broad goals ni nisa that the subject's courses expects to achieve. Like for example, objectives. Objectives are stated from the point of view of the teacher, such as to develop, to provide, to enhance, to inculcate. Okay, tagaanta ko mo example. Kita nyo na kumbaga kung ako sa West ako nag-graduate, West College of Education. So may mga educational objectives, di ba? May mga ideals, may mga objectives kita na andira na dahalin. So di ba, like to produce graduates nga amuni, nga globally competitive. So usually anchored ni sa vision, mission, core values sang isa ka institusyon or sang isa ka college. So tanan nga ginahimo, tanan nga educational objectives anchored, magambata nga anchored, connected ina, kumbaga halin ina sa vision, mission sang aton nga school. Okay. Have you heard or have you read the controversial ano sang issue or news about ano ni gani assumption, no? Ang Assumption College bala atong pag-define nila sa homosexuality nga. So again, Assumption College of Iloilo is a Catholic school. May vision, may mission, kag may values, core values man na sila. And again, amo na gani, hindi kita pwede kasi lang dapat equal kita dire, dapat amuni. Okay? So may ara na sila yung mga regulations nga ilang rules. That's why if you don't want if you don't want to abide in their rules and regulations, then you don't have to go to their school, right? Hindi mo na kinahanglan mag-eskwela for example, ma-conflict lang yung ideas. Like, for example, anon mo gidang institusyon, pwede ko da? Like, pwede ko da ayhan or hindi? So, again, ila na iya choice, that's an institution, pero may mga kumbaga do's and don'ts man sila. And we have to respect that. So, if you don't want to enroll your, for example, children there in the future, then hindi mo siya pag-i-enroll. Kung hindi mo siya, kung for example, tamaan ka liberated, man, again, may protocols man na sila. Amo nang ginamin ko nga educational objectives anchored sa vision sa school. Next, listing of learning outcomes specified for each subject, course, or objectives. So amo na ni, learning outcomes are stated in concrete, active. Okay, take note, read ko na ang active verbs such as demonstrate, to explain, to differentiate, to illustrate. I don't know if you're familiar. I know nasa kadamo na sa questions ng inyong na sabtan, the revised Bloom's taxonomy, no? The revised Bloom's taxonomy. So actually, ang Bloom's taxonomy, okay, I want you to write this down on your notebook. Ang Bloom's taxonomy, ang kinalain niya sa revised Bloom's taxonomy is ang Bloom's taxonomy, ang mga verb, kumbaga, di ba ano gani, remembering, understanding. So the-end siya sa ing. So usually that's a gerund, no? Gerund siya. So basically it's a noun. In noun siya, ara siya nakasulat siya in a noun based. So remembering, or pwede man siya remembering or understanding or comprehend, may mga mo na, di ba? So, silang isang aton yung mga educators, hindi pwede nga noun. Dapat active ang aton nga student. So, that's why ginisla nila ang understanding, kag ang mga analyzing na pala. To remember, understand, analyze, evaluate, okay, create. Yan. So, may mga amo-amo kita kay dapat active verbs, concrete active verbs. Okay? And then again, ang cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. Ang ang kay Bloom's taxonomy. So knowledge, amo nang knowledge wala, refers to mental skills such as remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, synthesizing, or creating. Okay? Ang kinalain pagid sa Bloom's taxonomy, ang sa Bloom's taxonomy synthesizing ang pinakataas. Ang sa revised creating ang pinakataas. Okay, makita cognitive sa ulo lang, mental processes, mental skills. Psychomotor naman is skills. Okay? Skills, psychomotor domain na siya. So also referred to as skills includes manual, physical skills which proceed from mental activities and range from simplest to complex, such as observing, imitating, practicing, adapting, and innovating. So kumbaga, it involves skills, it involves actions, okay, psychomotor. And then the most important thing, okay, this is the most important domain of our educational objectives, which is the affective domain or the values. The attitude refers to growth in feelings or emotions, from the simplest behavior to the most complex, such as receiving, responding, valuing, organizing, and internalizing. And if we have time later, isa-isa hunta na sila ang mga domains sa cognitive,